Hey, what's going on? Aaron Murray here. And make sure if you missed last week's episode, I sat down with Barbara Dooley. It was awesome. Got to check out their museum slash home with all the great stuff to do with Coach Vince Dooley. This week, I'm meeting with the guy who convinced me and was one of the main reasons why I went to the University of Georgia, Coach Mark Richt. Coach, appreciate you sitting down with me. Thanks for inviting me to your house.
I'm glad to be here with you, and it's been a minute, but I do see you almost every day when I go in the weight room. We've got a nice pen leaf picture that was painted that has an image of you slinging the ball, so I get to see you a lot.
We'll have to go up there and check it out too, part of the show. But you, after this, going to get a little boxing in now. Are we, little...
It's called Rock Steady Boxing. It's for people with Parkinson's, and it's designed to get your heart rate up quite a bit. We don't box each other. we box the bags, and there's probably 20% of that is boxing, and the rest is obstacle courses and stretching and all kind of good stuff like that. So you get a chance to break a sweat and enjoy the camaraderie of other Parkinson's patients. We have a good community.
How is health-wise with that? I mean, how much has that helped you? You feel like?
Oh, it helps a lot. Most people will say the best medicine for Parkinson's is exercise. So I do that 3 days a week. Like yesterday, I was at the track at Georgia, and I'll walk the curves and I'll run the straightaways. As a matter of fact, when I'm jogging / running, that's the most normal I look and feel. The faster I go, the more steady I am. The more I slow down, the more I wobble. But we got a pool in the back. It's about warm enough to start getting a little swimming in too. So and I do try to lift weights 3 days a week. But I'm there's not many things I can't do that I could do before. There's a few things like maybe coaching football might be a little much to put on my plate now. But for the most part, it may take me a little longer to do things, but I could do most everything.
How is what's your best combination? Are you a backhand guy, uppercut guy?
Well, the jab cross.
Okay.
Yeah, I've told many people that if they would just hold still, I could kick their ass. Just hold still, I'll knock you out. If you move, I'm in trouble.
Let me get your son out there and tell him to kind of, see what you can do with a moving target.
No, he would take full advantage.
Take down the old man.
For sure he would.
I want to talk a lot about you in this episode and kind of your past and really go back to even your youth and growing up and through Miami, Florida State, and obviously taking the job at Georgia. And maybe have you rank your favorite team and favorite quarterback at the end of this. So we'll see if I'm on that list or not. But you as a kid, what was life like? I mean, was football always a big part of your life growing up?
Well, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and till age 7 we moved to Colorado. But as far as football is concerned, you had to be in the 5th grade back then to put pads on to be on the football team. And my older brother Lou, he got to play 2 years before I did. He was 2 years older than me. And I used to be jealous. He kind of hated football, to be honest with you. But I was feeling like, man, if I could just, wear your pads and be you, I would do it in a heartbeat. But football was big. Baseball probably was my favorite sport growing up because I think it was my dad's favorite sport. It was the sport I would connect with my dad the most. I could remember him coming home from work, and I'd have my glove, his glove, a ball. And he'd park the car, and before he could get in the house, I'd give him his glove, and I'd make him play catch with me for a while before he'd go in the house. But going into my 10th grade year, Roger Coffey was the head coach at Boca Raton High School. We eventually moved to Boca Raton when I was 13. And he said, if you're going to be my quarterback, I want you to play just one sport. So I had to give up. I did play basketball. I did play baseball. Baseball was kind of the hardest one to give up, but I did it. I trusted him, and he said, if you do that, we'll get you a scholarship somewhere. And as it turned out, it was true.
I grew up in a similar era. I feel like that was the theme for a long time is specializing in one sport. Like I always felt like our coaches, even my brother's coaches, never really got along from the football to the baseball. They wanted you to play your sport all year long.
Right.
As you as a college coach, though, looking back on that, how much do other sports would have maybe even helped you as an athlete, and what would you recommend to younger kids? Would it be specialized a little bit more, or would you say try to play as much as you can?
Right. I mean, I did grow up in an era where we played all the sports. Yeah. And a lot of times it depends on what school you're at. Some of the smaller schools, there's not enough athletes to just play one sport. Everybody has to play all the sports. But if you're in a big, giant school and, each sport is established and has a coach that has his way of doing things, more than likely they're going to push you to play just one.
Yeah.
And in the truth be told, there are things to do all year round in each sport.
Yeah.
So because of that, it's not like you're just sitting there doing nothing. You're working on your skill set.
I just wish, I always think like a quarterback, middle infielder does help. Like to be able to turn to, especially in today's game, like a lot of those things do translate to helping you in whatever sports you end up moving on to in college. So I don't know, just be an athlete, have fun.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's fun. Yeah. It's fun to play those sports, and it's hard to give them up.
That's true. All right, you went to University of Miami, and you played with some really, really impressive quarterbacks. What was that journey like, being with guys that were, at the top, not only at that level, but the NFL?
Right. Well, I was coming out of high school in Boca Raton. High school, I was a Boca Bobcat that I mentioned before, but I was first team All-State, and I was really great. All you had to do was ask me. But I got recruited to Miami by Coach Saban. Not everybody knows that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it was Lou Saban, not Nick Saban. Okay. So anyway, he kind of told me I was going to be the guy to bring Miami out of the doldrums because they really weren't very good back then. And so I had my game plan. I was going to start as a freshman. I was going to be All-American my second year, and then my third year win the Heisman and go pro, right? The only problem with that plan was a guy named Jim Kelly was living my life for me. Mm-hmm. He was living out all my dreams. And so, Jim Kelly was there, and we were in the same class. Vinny Testaverde was there, and Bernie Kosar was there.
Oh, okay.
So when Jim and I were juniors, those guys were freshmen.
Yeah.
And we were kind of glad we were getting out of Dodge. Because the first scrimmages, when you let the rookies take a series, they're like bam, 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 down the field, touchdowns. But and then after that, I leave Miami I get a free agent shot with the Denver Broncos, and sure enough, John Elway's there. So got to see him play.
Who was the most impressive at that Miami group? Like when you were watching those freshmen and even Kelly, was there someone that you knew was just even a little bit better than the others?
Well, Testaverde was 6'5", 220, could run a 4.6 probably, could bench press, the house. I mean, he was just a physical specimen, and he could spin it, he could throw it. He was a big time. He's kind of like Stafford. When you saw Stafford come in, you're like, there's a good chance he'll be the first pick, not just a first rounder. And Vinny Testaverde was the first pick of the draft the year he came out.
I thought you were going to say that about me. Like, man, Aaron walked into the room and, that looks like a first rounder right there.
You played like a first rounder.
At times. I don't have the Stafford's.
But anyway, I leave. I get cut from Denver. And so the next year I try out for the Dolphins, and that's when Dan Marino showed up.
Oh, okay.
I think I was the fourth best quarterback in the world at the time, but nobody knew it because of those guys.
Oh, man. Would you have, if the rules were what they are today, would you have gone somewhere else?
Maybe. But I don't know if there had been a big market for me. I was, one thing Coach Snellenberger did, and Coach Snellenberger, after my first year, Lou Saban left Miami and Howard Snellenberger came in. And he put in the Miami Dolphins system in college. And I really enjoyed learning from him. And Earl Morrill was our quarterback's coach. He was a first rounder back in his day out of Michigan State too. But to grow up under that system was very intriguing to me. And Coach Snellenberger did a good job of letting his second teamer. He gave me a series in usually the first quarter, but in the first half. Almost every single game, gave me a chance to play.
That's awesome.
Keep my skills up and keep my hopes up.
Yeah. What do you think of the new rule when it comes to transferring? Are guys abusing it, in your opinion?
Well, I don't think they're abusing it. I mean, obviously they got a right to move now. Though it's a one-time transfer. but you could be immediately eligible, which in the past you had to sit out a year. You had to think about it more before you would make a move like that. I do worry about when things get tough, when things aren't going your way, leave. You know, when things get rough, let's find the easy route. And I still think there'd be guys like a DJ Shockley, who stayed behind David all those 4 years before he got to start. I think a guy like Shock still would have stuck around because of the reasons he stayed. I mean, we had a team meeting, and he told the team why he stayed, and he said part of it was because of his twin brothers that had Fragile X. And he said they loved Georgia. They wouldn't understand if I left the Bulldogs. And he said the other reason why I stayed is because all you guys in this room.
That's awesome.
You know, so he galvanized the team with that one team meeting.
Well, you see, even Carson. You know, I talked to Carson a few weeks ago, and he's like, I love this team. I love being in Athens.
Right.
I see the light at the end of the tunnel that I'm going to have a shot.
That's right.
And now you're, potentially the starting quarterback of the best team in the country. You know, nothing wrong with
There's nothing wrong with that, you know. And I mean, when I coached at Florida State, you know, we had the Charlie Ward, Brad Johnson, Casey Weldon, and, you know, Peter Tom Willis, guys just back to back. Most of those guys didn't play till their third or fourth season. They were, you know, fourth year, redshirt, junior, senior. And 2 years was enough for them to show what they could do and win a lot of games and play in the NFL and win Heisman trophies and the whole bit.
So
I got to mention Chris Winkie, or he'll get mad.
Good old Chris Winkie. So I think a lot of Georgia fans know you for being the godly man that you are, and one of the reasons why I committed to Georgia was because, you know, I knew that I was going to be developed as a football player, but also as a human being, also, which was really important to me and my family. But you had a little bit of a wild side back in the day. Kind of give us your how you grew up yourself from your time at Miami to me and your future wife, Catherine, there at Florida State.
Well, what happened was football and sports was where my identity was, like a lot of young kids, you know. You get positive strokes when you're good at something. And so I thrived on that. And then, of course, I went earlier, I was telling you my game plan on how I was going to be this great NFL quarterback. Well, when my identity, which was being a quarterback, went in the tank when Jim Kelly started living my life, then my life started to go in the tank, you know, and I started to do things I never dreamed I'd do. You know, my nickname was Boca because I was from Boca Raton, and it quickly became Boca Baby for reasons I'm not going to say on the air here, but you know, I just was doing wild stuff and things that you know, today, you know, truthfully, if I got caught doing everything I did in college, which may be true of a lot of people, I might still be in jail right now. So not a lot to be proud of in those days.
Hey, but you met the one.
Yes.
How did that? Because I don't even know this story. How did you two end up meeting, and how did that kind of change who you were as a man?
Well, after getting cut from the NFL a couple times, I got a chance to coach quarterbacks as a graduate assistant for Coach Bowden at Florida State. So, you know, I'm a young coach. I'm a graduate assistant coach. I'm trying to prove I belong. The last thing I want to do is have Coach Bowden think I was chasing the college girls, right? Well, it turned out my roommate, who was another graduate assistant, Jay Perkins, was dating a girl named Liz Ward. Liz Ward had a roommate named Kathy Francis, which is Catherine Richt today. And so I used to hang out with Jay and Liz, and one day we were riding down the road going to lunch or something. I said, you know, I need to meet a nice girl. She's like, oh, I got the perfect one for you. So set up a blind date. And so Jay and I were in charge of the food. Excuse me, we were in charge of the movie. It was going to be movie. The date was a movie and dinner, right? The girls got dinner and we got the movie. Guess what movie we picked? Animal House.
Oh, nice. That's a classy first date movie right there.
Yeah, exactly. So we watched Animal House, and actually what happened with Kathy.
It worked out, I guess.
Well, Kathy at the time, it was Kathy, now it's Catherine, but she and I became friends first. We just hung out together because our roommates were dating. And, you know, and I told her every dirty detail about my life because I really didn't think we'd end up being married anytime. And she told me everything about her, and we still liked each other. And then over time, it became more romantic, and it was good.
The rest is history. Couple babies and now grandkids.
Truth be told, she gave me the ultimatum. She's like, exclusive dating with me, or
we're done.
Or we're done. So I had to make the call.
How did you get to Florida State? Like, how did that connection? Where was the connection?
I actually got recruited by Florida State out of high school. So Coach Bowden knew me from then.
Yeah.
But he also knew I was at Miami as a player.
Yeah.
I knew the Miami system, and Miami and Florida State was a huge rival.
Yeah.
So Coach Bowden had decided to coach quarterbacks himself, but he needed a young graduate assistant coach to help him do that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being that guy. And he came to my first quarterback meeting, sat through the whole meeting, let me run the meeting.
Yep.
Kind of kept an eye on me during practice, and then he never came back.
That's awesome.
I was 24-year-old,
wow,
first year GA coaching quarterbacks at Florida State. I mean, the guy I was coaching was just a couple months younger than me, Eric Thomas.
Did you feel ready at that time? Like, how much football? What was your football knowledge?
You've heard the term ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
I mean, I was ignorant to know that I wasn't ready. But
the
thing that I did have, though, going back to my time at Miami, was the Miami Dolphin drop back passing system. And me as a player, especially because I was a backup, I think, I was just eating up the information. I learned about protections. I learned about route concepts. I learned about how to handle blitz. I learned So I learned a lot of football because I wanted to learn. As a matter of fact, a couple times I would ask the coach, why are we doing this? And in the beginning, he thought I was like being disrespectful, like, why are we doing this? But it was more like, no, I want to know why, like he'd say, in 60 protection, you're hot off of, so if so-and-so comes, you're hot. I'd say, well, why? Yeah. And he teaches the nuts and bolts of protection. And so I learned a lot of the Miami Dolphin system at the Hurricanes. And I remember when I first got the job at Florida State, Coach Bowden asked me for the playbook. He goes, "You got that?" He's like, "Hey man, you got that Miami playbook?"
Did you have it?
No.
Well, what?
I was like, they don't let you keep the playbook. I said, I got it all right here, Coach.
There you go.
But that helped me, just having the knowledge that not everybody in the offensive staff room had. Not that I was smarter than anybody. I just was exposed to more. Different. And Coach Bowden was run, play action, pass, and throw, which we did a lot of, obviously. But we integrated a lot of the drop back passing game too.
Was our terminology original Bobby Bowden terminology?
A lot of it.
Okay.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
You've heard of Cadillac, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You heard of Cadillac, right? The route concept.
Yep.
And a lot of people will name routes route by route, and some people will have one name that tells everybody what to do.
Yep.
And we wanted to simplify things, and that's what we did.
Well, I remember my time in Kansas City. Andy Reid was the coach, and it was all West Coast offense. So it was naming every little thing from protection to the routes. Right. All of a sudden, I think my second year, maybe even third year, we simplified it. It was, let's condense
just a lot of verbiage.
Yeah, way too much verbiage. It'd take you 15 seconds
it's
to call play.
Well, you might lose a great quarterback talent because you can't spit it out.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I remember my first meeting, Alex Smith and Chase Daniels were talking about the plays. I get in there as a rookie.
Right.
And I think they're just messing with me.
Right.
I'm like, they're just screwing me because it sounded like they're speaking a different language.
Right.
Because it's full sentences.
Oh, I know, it's nuts.
And I open the playbook and no, each play is 15 to 20 words long.
Yeah, when John Elway, I was in Denver Bronco camp with Elway that rookie season, and he came from Stanford, but he had asked the same thing. He'd like, why? Why so many words? I think they condensed it for him too, not just to simplify things for everybody.
Get in out of the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage, you can make your checks.
Right.
Didn't be that aggressive. I want to stick on Coach Bowden a little bit because obviously I grew up in Florida. He was a big figurehead for the state growing up for me.
Right.
What did you learn from him during your time?
Well, like I mentioned, he gave me the big break as a coach, but he gave me a bigger break when it came to my eternal destiny. Right. And year two at Florida State as a graduate assistant, we had an open date early in the year, And during the open day, Coach Bowden said, you players can go home for the weekend, but come back Sunday night for the team meeting to get ready for the next game and next week of school. And so some of the guys went home, some of the guys stayed. A lot of the guys that stayed went to an on-campus party. Somebody pulls the fire alarm. Everybody's on the parking lot. A car comes through the lot, almost hits one of our players named Pablo Lopez. Well, he didn't like it. Big 6'5", 285 pound offensive tackle, kid from Miami of Cuban descent. Great guy. Well, he didn't like it, right? So he gets in the driver's side window and threatens to kick this guy's tail, right, in front of his buddies that are in the car with him. This guy gets his feelings hurt. He goes home, gets a sawed-off shotgun, brings it back to the party. By then, everybody's back in the building. Yeah. The guy who brought the gun tells his boys to say, hey, somebody's messing with the cars out there. Yeah. So out comes Pablo and half the team. And when Pablo got close, the kid pulls the gun and basically wants Pablo to back down. Yeah. Like Pablo made him back down in front of his boys. Got his pride hurt, right? Yeah. So he's going to hurt Pablo's pride. Well, Pablo calls his bluff and walks with his arms out saying, you won't shoot me, bro. Yeah. When he got too close, the kid panicked and pulled the trigger and shot him and killed him. And so the next day was that Sunday, team meeting, everybody's back in town. And, I call roll as a graduate assistant. I'm in the back of the room and coach is in the front with all the seats. There's assigned seating. And, of course, there's one empty chair. And coach started talking to the team about Pablo. He said, man, I don't know where Pablo is right now. I'm not sure he's going to spend eternity because I don't know where he was in his faith. He said, well, there's a God in heaven who loves you, who wants a relationship with you, he wants you to spend all of eternity in heaven with him. He said, the problem with heaven is the standard's perfection. Yep. And none of us are perfect. So we need a savior, and that's Jesus. So basically he preached the gospel to the guys. But he said, man, that chair's empty now. He said, you guys are 18 to 22 years old. You think you're going to live forever. Like Pablo thought he was going to live forever, and now he's gone. Yep. He said, if that was you last night instead of Pablo, do you know where you'd spend eternity? Yep. Well, he's talking to the players, but I'm in the back of the room. And I'm thinking to myself, if it had been me the night before, I know where I was going, and it was not a good place. So the next day, he told the team, he says, if you ever want to talk to me about it, come see me. Well, I know he was talking to the players, but the next day I knocked on the door. And he said, come on in, buddy. And he calls you buddy when he forgets your name. But I said, Coach, I know you're talking to those players, but I need Jesus. Yeah. So I prayed to receive Christ right there in his office, and everything changed for me. When your heart changes, your behavior begins to change. We'll never be perfect on this side of heaven, but my spirit and soul were made right with God, and my behavior's lagging behind a little bit, but just so thankful for knowing in the end game where I'm going.
When did he entrust with you the offense? How did that progression work?
Well, I was there as a graduate assistant. I did coach QBs for 2 years as a GA, 2 years as a volunteer assistant, and then I actually
left for a year.
I left for a year, went to East Carolina in 1989, was the offensive coordinator there. And then one of the staff members left and went to the Atlanta Falcons. And the tight ends coach became the line coach and coordinator, and the quarterbacks coach ended up getting a job at Kentucky. Yeah. So that opened up a space for a QB job and a full-time position. So Brad Scott, who became the offensive coordinator, called me and said, I want you to help me with the passing game. And so I was really excited about that. Catherine was 8 months pregnant. She's from Tallahassee. So it was a chance to go back. But I said, I want Coach Bowden to want me, not just you. So got on the phone with Coach Bowden, and he convinced me he wanted me. So went back to Florida State. And that was 90, 91, 92, 93. Brad was the coordinator. And 93 won the national championship with Charlie Ward. Now in 92, Coach Bowden allowed us to call plays. Yeah. He turned it over. And even though I wasn't the coordinator, I was the play caller as the quarterback's coach. Mm-hmm. Then Brad Scott got a head job at South Carolina in 94. And that's when I became the titled offensive coordinator, 94, till 2000, and then 2001 got the Georgia job.
Moved over to Georgia, obviously head coach, coordinator. It's fun. I was talking with Greeny. Well, before I get to that, I guess how prepared were you to take that next step? I mean, you've had a great journey so far.
To be head coach,
to be head coach,
yeah,
be from OC to head coach.
As ready as I could be.
Yeah.
You're never ready till you sit in the chair.
Yeah.
And feel the weight of the responsibility. But to be under Coach Bowden for 15 years, one of the greatest of all time, and just to see how he did his business. 5 years prior to getting the Georgia job, I got offered some other head jobs that I turned down. And God was saying, you're not ready to be head coach, but you need to get ready. So for those 5 years, I paid a little more attention to what the head coach was doing. And so, funny story about the Georgia job. I get interviewed by Coach Dooleys, who's the AD, and President Adams, the president of Georgia. And after the interview, Coach Dooleys said, it was like on a Monday, he said, I'll get with you at the end of the week and let you know what we're going to do. We're going to interview a couple more guys, right? Well, the next day, he calls me and offers me the job. And I really wasn't ready to hear that news yet. I thought it was going to be about a week. And I said, I'm not sure I want the job. He said, what? I said, I'm not sure I want it. He goes, I'll give you another $50,000. I said, I'm not negotiating. I'm just not sure. The truth was, I was afraid of the responsibility. And so he said, here's the deal. He goes, you sleep on it and you call me in the morning. And if you don't want it, I got to move on, right? Yeah. Let me know. So Coach Dooley, that's what Coach Dooley said to me. And then, so by the end of the night, by 3 a.m, I realized I want the job, right? Yeah. So I call Coach at 3 a.m. And I go, it's Mark Richt, I want the job. And he goes, that's great. He goes, what time is that? I go, it's 3 a.m. He goes, why'd you call me at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night? I said, I was afraid you're going to sleep on it and change your mind, so I wanted to get you before that.
What made Athens the destination, though? With all the other jobs you've been offered, I know maybe you weren't ready, but like, why this place?
It was a family decision. Yeah. We were always looking for a city where we wanted to raise our kids. Yeah. We wanted a place that had football winning tradition, one that you could win big. Yeah. And then you want to be around the right kind of people, and we just felt a heavy trust for Coach Dooley during the interview process.
All right, so I remember I talked to Greeny about this. I'll get this now. You called plays, and I remember because I asked him, I was like, what was Bobo like as a coordinator? Right. He said Bobo didn't call plays when I was here. It was Coach Rick. Right. How difficult was that transitioning from head coach and play caller to giving that part up, which you've been a part of for so long? Right. Go back to your Florida State days.
Right. Well, I think it was 2007. I think it was the 7th season. Yeah. Right before the bowl game, I got with Mike Bobo and said, I'm going to have you call this game. I gave him, a month's prep. But what happened was, just like Coach Bowden brought me in to help him coach QBs, that's what I did with Mike. Yeah. So when I first came to Georgia, I was quarterbacks coach basically, coordinator, play caller, head coach. But I was grooming Mike to be the next quarterbacks coach, which he took over relatively quick. Mm-hmm. And then I would just be in the meetings listening because I was still the play caller. Yeah. Then year 7, I think it was before a Peach Bowl game, I told Mike, I said, look, you're going to call the plays. If we win the game, I'm going to tell everybody you called the plays. If we lose the game, I'm going to tell everybody I called them. We'll just let them think I called the plays, because I didn't think it was fair to give a guy that job with just 3 weeks to prepare, compared to a whole off season. But we ended up winning the game, and he did a nice job. And I already had full faith and confidence that he could do it. It was just a matter of if I wanted to give it up. Yeah. The reason why I gave it up was for a couple of reasons. One was when you're calling plays and when you're a coordinator, all you do all off season long is think about ball, talk about ball, study other people and what they're doing offensively, studying defenses and what are they doing. So you're always staying up to speed. Yep. When you're the head coach, you have so many other responsibilities. Your off seasons aren't as productive as if you're the coordinator. Yep. So over time, we're doing the same thing year 6, year 7, year 8, and probably not growing with the times. And I just felt like Mike could devote his whole time to doing it, and I trusted him.
That'd be tough, though.
Yeah, it was tough. And it was during the Stafford era. Yeah. So I'm recruiting Matthew as the play caller. And, he remembered he kind of grew up loving Florida State and their quarterbacks. I think his dad was an assistant coach of swimming or something at Florida State at one time. So part of the reason why we got him was my connection to Florida State and his memories and the success we had with Heisman Trophy winners and all that. And then all of a sudden, Mike becomes his guy.
Yep.
And so what I did with Matthew, and I'll say it publicly, I became less and Mike became more, so to speak. I didn't want two voices confusing the quarterback. No. Bobo saying this and then I'm saying that, and then I didn't want to contradict what Mike was saying or vice versa. I didn't want to confuse the talent, so to speak. I didn't want to confuse Matt. But because of that, our relationship probably didn't grow as close. I learned later that I still needed to keep a close relationship as the head coach with the quarterbacks like I did with you. And not that I wasn't close to Matt, but I probably backed out of that one a little bit just to help keep his sanity of not having two guys chirping in his head.
Having Bobo 24/7 ripping him, and then you in the background, which is one of the reasons why I committed to Georgia, was knowing that I would have essentially two sets of eyeballs on me at all time between you and Bobo. So that was exciting for me. And like you said, you were very involved with my development, just like Bobo was, which was why I had the career that I felt like I had at Georgia.
It was a good one.
It was fun. We had a good time. Close a couple times. You were close a few times in your career. From the year y'all won, I remember the first time I ever watched Georgia was the game versus Hawaii in the Sugar Bowl. Y'all were probably the best team in the country. Just didn't have the record to go to the Natty.
Didn't have a playoff system.
Yeah, didn't have a playoff system. Could have used a playoff system in 2012, our junior year, or another 10 seconds on the clock, 1 to 2.
Right.
How frustrating is that? Because I know it's frustrating for me because that's the first question I always get asked. Everyone always wants to talk about 2012. They want to talk about 2012, or they want to talk about 2013 Auburn. I'm like, why did the two games everyone want to talk about are the two games that were awesome, but we lost?
Yeah, they're the ones that hurt the most.
Yeah, hurt the most.
When that had could have changed history.
Do they keep you up at night though? The knowing that you were right there.
I'm at peace.
Yeah.
I obviously would have loved to had a national championship or two. I say I'm at peace. I say
that too, but
I'm not at peace right now that you mentioned it. I guess I just don't think about it, but that helps me be at peace.
It's hard not to when you live in Athens or me, Atlanta, because people always, I feel like,
But now they've won two back to back. They're not worried about the close ones anymore. Yes. So I think that probably took a little pressure off of that. But they were great seasons, great years. And I did blast one of the media guys after that game. He was mainly when he was talking about Murray can't win. He was talking about me and you, but he mentioned you in particular. I slammed the guy. I'm like, you got no idea. I said, did you just watch that game? Did you just see what that kid did? I mean, he played his ass off. But he did everything he could do. 4 yards short.
Would your post or would your career have been different if we won that year, you think?
I might still be the head coach. Just delegating stuff. Playing
the Bobby Bauer role, taking the golf cart around the facility.
Exactly. Yeah. Put an elevator in the tower. Take a couple notes.
Well, facility-wise, though, I mean, we had a nice facility. The indoor was a little kooky.
Yeah.
But this is pretty special what they have right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I've been in there and I'm sure you have too. But you get lost in there. You're like, I don't know. I have no idea where I'm at.
I have no idea.
Because it's so different and so beautiful.
All the bells and whistles. All right, couple fun ones here. You coached a lot of great quarterbacks, a lot of great teams.
Right.
What was the best team? Like, if you had to stack them up in a little round robin tournament, what team would end up winning it?
Well, you mentioned 2012. That'd be one of them.
Yep.
2007 would be one of them, and then 2002 was a hell of a football team. We were 13-1. Yep. It was a season that we lost to Florida, but if we'd have been undefeated, we still probably wouldn't have played for the national championship because only two teams got in.
Crazy.
And Miami, Ohio State were both undefeated as well. In preseason, they're like top 5. We were probably top 25, maybe. Yeah. Might not have even been started the season in the top 25. But those teams were really good for sure. Go ahead.
So which one would win?
What's that? Which one
will win? Head to head.
I don't know. I think I'm wanting to say 2002.
It's fine.
2012. Those have been the top two.
Okay.
And that 12 was a year where a lot of guys decided to stick around for their
Yes.
senior year, wasn't it?
Especially the defense.
Yeah, some guys, I forgot exactly who, but some guys stepped up and said, I'm staying.
Yep.
And other guys decided to stay.
Yeah. We had Alec, we had Jarvis, Jenkins, Bakari.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a loaded roster that year.
Yeah, they were great.
5 yards.
So close.
What made you think that I had potential? Go back if you remember when you recruited this kid out of Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, well,
undersized kid.
Yeah, your fundamentals were really good. You know, your passing. I mean, my 3 prerequisites is accurate passer, great decision maker, and can handle the pressure of the job.
Yep.
And I thought you were very accurate. I thought you were sharp in your decision making. And I thought, you know, being state champs in the state of Florida is a big deal, especially at the level, was at the highest level?
Yeah, we were 6A.
6A at the time. And I knew you could handle the pressure. And you had an injury you were fighting through, I remember, in the playoff system. And you just had a lot of grit and toughness. And I felt like you could do it. And you did. I mean, just about every passing record in the SEC you broke.
Yeah.
And but one thing, I think the greatest compliment I could give you, and you know what I'm talking about when I talk about cut-ups.
Yeah.
Cut-ups are plays for everybody listening to teach the next guy how to do it. And so you have your system, and if you have your system, like we had the system for 10, 12 years, you know, going through the years, every play, you might have a cut-up of David Green. Like David Green was dominant in the cut-ups until you showed up. And a lot of the plays you did, are you taking is your footwork right? Is your head in the right spot? Did you pick up the side adjustment? Are you going through your progression? Did you put the ball placement where it should be? I mean, you took over the cut-ups in a big way.
Mastered that 143 bench.
That's right. That's
3 and a wheel to the left.
That's tough.
I think if I would try that today, my hip would pop out of place.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
I tell all these quarterbacks now, like, you guys think you have it easy with Bobo, but go back and watch the 143 bench. And
I know, that's true.
145 demon, whipping it around, 1 and 2 to check down. I mean, you had to have some salsa-like hips to get through your reads. Last one real quick is just, obviously, the game has changed as a coach. You talk about you as a head coach and a play caller and a QB coach. Now these guys are head coach, they're big-time recruiter, they're transfer portal recruiter, they're worrying about NIL and obviously all the off-field stuff too. Would you have enjoyed coaching in this new era?
There's things I would have enjoyed, but there's things I'm sure I would not have enjoyed. And, you know, people ask me a lot, you know, how would you handle the NIL and all that kind of thing? Or what do I think about NIL? And the bottom line is it's here. It's not going away. It's here to stay. And my comment's always been, if you cry about it, then you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
You know, so you need to embrace it. You need to use it to your advantage. And, you know, some people say, I won't say it, but some people say it's, they're doing things with money that they used to do illegally, now they do it out in the open. But to me, between the portal and NIL, you got unrestricted free agency with no salary cap, which is anarchy. Yeah. But you got to manage it.
You got to manage it.
That's right.
I would not have said no to a couple extra bucks in my pocket back in 2010.
Yeah. And when you think about it, though, I mean, multi-million dollars are being changed hands. I mean, coaches are making now $8-10 million a year.
11. Kirby's making 11.
11. You know, so the bottom line is, you know, do the kids deserve it? I mean, are they the product? Yeah, they're the product. If you're the product, if you can sing beautifully and everybody wants to pay for your music, you can make $20 million or whatever it is. You know, and why shouldn't these guys make money? You may not want to manage it as a coach, but I get it. And you know, guys are putting their lives on the line, literally. And so, you know, they deserve it. And, you know, I do, again, worry a little bit about leaving when things get tough in the portal, but it is a one-time exemption. So sooner or later, you got to stick around and compete.
You got to be smart about it.
Got to compete.
Well, Coach, man, appreciate you jumping
Yeah,
on with
enjoyed
me.
it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go enjoy that boxing lesson.
That's right.
Get taped up, protect those knuckles,
That's right.
and go Dogs.
Yes, sir.